Welcome to KY Connect. Let's meet Julia. Julia is one of the most passionate learning professionals I've met, and she has a question for me.
Hi KY, I have a question for you. So in this period of crisis, there might be organizations, companies that will have a tendency to cut their budget dedicated to learning. And beyond this financial aspect, to think that learning is no longer a top priority, nor a must-have, but just a nice-to-have. So my question to you would be, how can we ensure that learning will still be considered and recognized as a top priority, especially in these difficult times? Thank you.
Thank you for the great question, Julia. I think it is typical for organizations when it comes to making decisions, especially in the difficult times, is to cut what is seen as nice to have. And sometimes training and learning is seen as a nice to have. I think that's not right. I think the way we get out of the crisis is to continue learning. Nevertheless, how can we continue to learn and prioritize learning when we do not have budgets to offer formal training? So this reminds me of a story of how I learned when I was working in China. As some of you know, I've worked in China for a few years, but I've never learned formally how to speak Putonghua. So the challenge I had was I had to learn to speak Putonghua very quickly without access to more traditional way of learning in a classroom. So what did I do? I started to contract with the team around me to start learning. I asked them to help me improve my Putonghua, and in return, I'd help them improve English. I also set quite specific KPIs for myself to practice. Firstly, practice Putonghua in internal meetings, and then when I was able to do that, to extend the practice to learn Putonghua and practice Putonghua when I met clients. In a very short time, I was able to improve. Once I was able to settle down in China, I then actually went back to get a formal tutor to help me improve my Putonghua. As many of you know, I believe in the principle of 10, 20, and 70% of learning. When in difficult times, when training budgets are cut, often that means we do not have access to training, which is the 10% of formal learning. Nevertheless, it doesn't stop us from pivoting to working and learning from the 20% and/or the 70%. Another way of looking at this principle is that the 10, 20, 70 is not a linear process. Learning is learning. For those of you who are leading organizations and running training programs in your organization, what can we do in the current crisis when our training budgets are cut? We should be able to pivot to offer the 20% and 70% of learning to our organization. So what are examples of 20% of learning? I've seen companies launch great mentoring programs, peer learning groups, learning communities by tapping into the collective intelligence of their organization to continue learning from each other. As for the 70%, I've seen companies be able to do stretch assignments for their employees, do job rotations in the short term, or even get their executive team to launch action learning projects that lets people learn but also get valuable outputs from these projects. So, my tip for all of you today is this: pivot your learning to the 20% and the 70%. For example, find a mentor and commit to a new project where you stretch your application of your learning. Best of luck, and I see you again on KY Connect. Thank you.